Good afternoon and welcome to Midday Live. I am Wendy Lai. Coming up this afternoon, Narcotics Control Board arrests Tanzanian with drugs valued at $70,000. Ghana drops by 3 points on the latest Corruption Perception Index, CPI. What are the implications? We will find out. Association of Junior Veterinary Surgeons gives government 1 month ultimatum to begin processes to engage them. And on the firing front, some schoolgirls missing after militant attack on a boarding school in northern Nigeria rescued by the military. So we have details of these stories, including the opportunity to air your societal concerns on the MTN video reports coming up shortly. Let's start with our stories now. And the Narcotics Control Board has arrested a Tanzanian with narcotics drugs worth $70,000. So like I mentioned earlier on, the Narcotics Control Board has arrested a Tanzanian with narcotic drugs worth $70,000. And Anam Kwantapisa is the Communications and Media Relations Officer of NARCOP, and he's joining me here in the studio. Good afternoon, and thanks for your time. Very well, thank you. Now, when exactly and where did this happen?
Yeah, thanks so much for the opportunity. Narcotics Control Board, we all know that in our modus operandi, we are across all the exits and entry points in this country. And one of the most sensitive parts is the Kotoka International Airport. And just recently, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, this Tanzanian, she was on Rwandan Air RW200 flight when she landed in Accra, that's Kotoka. So going through the arrival formalities, our operatives there also detected some anomalies in her check-in luggage, and we further checked and we saw that there has been some false compartment in her hand luggage, and we did further probing and we confirmed that there were 2 parcels of suspected substances that is made up of cocaine and heroin, that is speedball, and she did confirm that indeed she carried the parcel from Tanzania, which was given to her by one Omari to be given to an unknown person in Ghana here. So upon the preliminary test, it was confirmed positive.
So what next after the arrest? Where exactly is she? What's going to happen?
Yes, you know, most of this arrest, Narcotics Control Board, people say that we've not been doing anything, but we do arrest a lot. In this year alone, we've done almost about 8 to 10 arrests, but investigations are ongoing. And with this particular arrest, she was taken to court, and she pleaded guilty of the offense, which the court gave her 5-year sentence. And in view of that, management thought it wise that this information need to come to the public domain.
So she's in prison here in Ghana?
Yes, in prison here in Ghana.
Now, what about broadening the net? She mentioned that she was given this very drugs by someone up there in Tanzania, and she was supposed to deliver it to someone here in Ghana. What has been the collaboration between the authorities here in Ghana and those in Tanzania, and what has happened to the individual she touched on here?
Well, we've done a lot of work on her. There are some of this. We are in touch with you know, this borders on diplomatic aspect of it, and we need to liaise with the various authorities. But from the investigative aspect that NACOB had already carried out, we've been able to track down some of these perpetrators. And we also wish to use this medium to appeal or to caution the general public to be mindful or desist from taking out parcels from people or persons that they doubt their integrity or something of that sort in the society. Because
and that was the case of this lady?
Yes, yes. She was used as a conduit. You know, these people will say that take this parcel to search the person. If you are not sure of the content, you need to check in front of the person. If you really want to deliver it, you need to check it. But if you don't, the law says that if you are found culpable, we will deal with you irrespective of who you are or where you are coming from. And that is exactly what Narcotics Control Body has done over the years.
So for clarity's sake, let's go back to the issue about the further investigations, which you said some more work has been done on it. So does that mean that a lot more arrests have been made?
Not on the Tanzanian woman. As I said, this year alone, we've done some couple of arrests. Very soon.
But I'm concentrating on the Tanzanian woman.
The Tanzanian, yes, she's failed to give further names.
She's failed?
Yes, she's failed to give. But the name she's given to us as the Omari, the person who gave her the parcel, yes, as I said, this borders on diplomatic aspect. So we've given to Interpol. Narcotics Control Board is in contact with Interpol to track down on the person who gave her those things. Because yes, she's in prison here, but we need to also collaborate with our partners in Tanzania to ensure that those who use this innocent people are brought to book. So that is exactly what we are not openly giving out the details, but because it boils on intelligence and other things.
Now,
so,
again, you've mentioned that people should be careful when they're given parcels. They should cross-check and check again. And you also added that we've made some arrests this year. Now, are we making headway when it comes to the fight against such cases?
Well, Narcotics Control Board, as I said, you know, our modus operandi.
I'm talking as us as a country.
Yes.
Are we making headway?
We are. That's why I'm saying the Narcotics Control Board, yeah, we do arrest, but not all arrests are brought to the public domain, because a tiny person or someone innocently will be arrested. That person is just a courier, and it's very it kills the story when we bring the courier out. So we need to do thorough investigation. We need to check. Try to fish the big
I ask
campaigns.
Because it's not just dealing with this problem is not just about narcotics control, but there are other stakeholders you deal with, and it's not just about arresting the people, but dealing with the situation in its entirety to ensure that these numbers go down and it doesn't even occur at all in our country. That's why I asked that, are we really making headway aside the arrest and what you're doing, but the multi-stakeholder approach in dealing with this situation?
Yes, NACOB is not operating alone. We are in touch with the various agencies, the mental health authority, we are with them, the police, prisons, because if you are sentenced, we don't leave you there like that. We have a counseling department which goes to also try to engage you, because you'll be discouraged, you'll be down when you have been given the sentence. So we have expert psychologists who go beyond after the person is being sentenced to ensure that the person is giving the needed advice or...
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I have been speaking to Nana Osei Kwantabita, and he is the Communications and Media Operations Officer at NACOB. You're still watching Midday Live, and Ghana is losing the fight against corruption. This is according to various speakers at the Public Accountability Lecture by the University of Professional Studies here in Accra. The surge in corruption they have attributed to a lack of funds to enable anti-corruption institutions operate effectively and the kind of multi-party democratic system being practiced in Ghana.
Corruption has been one of the greatest threats to Ghana's development and progress. Its effects have been widely discussed on various platforms, with several interventions in an attempt to minimize or eliminate it. The recent Afrobarometer survey shows a desire on the part of Ghanaians to see more action by government in dealing with the menace. The maiden edition of the Public Accountability Lecture Series sought to answer the question, is Ghana losing the war against corruption? President of policy think tank Imani Africa, Franklin Cudjoe, is of the view Ghana is losing the war against corruption, calling for a more radical action from government.
I think that once the president and the vice president and the finance minister have dedicated themselves to this call for growing Ghana beyond aid, we should ensure that when the aid tap stops flowing, we'll have recourse to the resources we have within country to prosecute development, that development agenda. So we should do everything. We should translate their visions through the ministers to ensure that the projects we embark upon are properly valued.
Most speakers were worried political parties were being funded by some corrupt people who in turn attempt to recoup their funds when their parties win power. But will state funding of political parties be a solution?
We only have a flagging democracy, but in terms of real value-enhancing democracy, what have we got? There's a lot of policy incoherence. People are doing things by themselves. You don't see any proper coordination. If we open the floodgates and allow many more people to create political parties, that will spell doom for our finances in this country. In fact, it will become a lifestyle and a source of employment. We don't want that.
However, a senior research fellow at the Institute of Democratic Governance, IDEC, Dr. Kwesi Jonah, holds a different view.
In very many developed democracies in the world, parties are funded. And the reason parties are funded is that in almost every democracy, we need the parties to perform certain public functions, to shape public opinion, to offer alternative policies, and so on and so forth. So what you want to do is to provide a certain funding to support the functions that you want the parties to perform in a democracy.
The lecture was attended by representatives from the Ghana Police Service, Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, Bank of Ghana, and the Ghana Integrity Initiative.
And the World Bank country director has praised Ghana for leading the fight against corruption. Henry Godfred Rupni Kerali says despite accusations that the World Bank supports corrupt governments, it will continue to support the country. He called on the executive and the legislature to assist investigative journalists and unearth corruption in the country. His comments come after Ghana fell off the Corruption Perception Index, according to Transparency International.
The role of the media is indispensable, not only for Ghana's democracy, but throughout Africa. Among others, investigative journalism plays a key role in unveiling the matters that are concealed, either deliberately by people in position of power or of influence. To this extent, it is critical that journalism plays the role in unearthing such practices. This contributes to not only freedom of expression, freedom of information, but is also a fundamental human right that the people that serve us in power or of influence work on behalf of the population as a whole. Corruption is indeed a tough issue to deal with. The World Bank is often accused of supporting corrupt governments. I have to say that Ghana is leading the way in the fight against corruption, and we will continue to support the government in Ghana and the people in Ghana, more importantly, in addressing these ills in society.
Well, you're still watching Midday Live, and very soon we will be having some interview on the corruption perception here in Ghana. And like I mentioned earlier on, Ghana has dropped by 3 points on the latest Corruption Perception Index, CPI, scoring 40 out of 100. Ghana was also ranked 81 out of 180 countries. But as and when we get that interview, we'll have that interview and talk a lot more and discuss further on the Corruption Perception Index here in our country. And shortly we will be speaking to Kojo, that's Dr. Kojo Pupuni Asante, is a Director Public Policy and Organizational Development at CDD. So when we get him, we'll speak to him on this very matter. Well, I'm told we do have Dr. Kojo Asante on the line. Good afternoon, Doctor, and thanks for agreeing to speak with us.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon to your viewers.
And now, really, these corruption perception index, does it really tell the exact situation of corruption we have as a country?
Well, I mean, it tells, a story, and I think we need to be a bit nuanced in the way we absorb the perception index. So, for one, it's not even just about today's CPI results for 2017. But actually, if you look at the trend analysis for the last 11 years, we've still been hovering around, the average is about 3.8 or 38 points. So that tells the story that we really are stagnating. We haven't done well at all in combating corruption, for all the time of that period. And that is reflecting in the results. So we are not really making any appreciable jumps. We go forward and we come backwards. We look at the scores over time. The second thing is that the focus should not necessarily be on the index and the aggregate. The focus should be on the sources of information that is used to calculate or assess a particular country on the index. So if you look at the list, I think of nine sources, which includes, I think, the World Bank report, the AGP report, the varieties of democracy, and so on. That is where we have to go and interrogate what it is that they are finding for us to make sense of what is the problem. What is the problem with, with our system, or where do people get the perceptions from, in order for us to know what exactly to tackle. If you say, oh, Ghana today is 40 points, yesterday was 42 points, it does not, all it tells you is that, okay, we're still not making any real headway with corruption. But if we really want to understand it, then we need to go to the sources, because they will tell you what exactly your problem is and why you need to do something about it.
Now, Doc, in your earlier take, you mentioned that spanning a number of years, we make some progress, and then it gets worse. Now, it's not like we don't know what the situations are. And for instance, if we should use these perception index, they come up with the concerns people have shared. And even we do have experts who talk about how we can deal with the problem. Why is this canker still there?
Well, I mean, I think fundamentally, our democratic system is, for me, we haven't addressed the issues of political corruption, which is a major problem. Because in a democratic system, if the politicians, either elected or appointed, who are supposed to hold bureaucrats accountable, and therefore it cascades down, are already going into office compromised, then the whole system of accountability becomes compromised. So, we know there's vote buying in elections. We know the cost of elections are going higher. A lot of people are getting into these offices with debts and so on and so forth. So it makes it very, very difficult right from the start to expect that, they would seek the public interest and not try to recoup investments illegally. So that is fundamentally a problem. And then institutions are not held accountable. So the institutions that are supposed to make sure that if people are corrupt, they are investigated as quickly as possible and prosecuted, are not, because the people who are supposed to hold them accountable are themselves engaging in acts of corruption. So we have a fundamental problem with democratic accountability. Civil society and media and so on do their part, but they don't have the power to prosecute or to investigate people and so on and so forth. So that is where it comes to the crux of the matter.
Thank you so much for
so
your
that
time,
I mean,
Doc.
that for me, I think is a big
We're
problem.
grateful for your time, Dr. Kojo Pumpuni Asante. He is the Director of Public Advocacy and Organizational Development at CDD. You're still watching Midday Live, and now let's focus on health. And some boys diagnosed with HIV are battling with psychosocial effects of swollen breast and side effects of antiretroviral drugs. Health officials say the condition is irreversible, though can be corrected through a surgical procedure to remove the breast tissue.
The condition known as gynecomastia is a medical condition characterized by the swelling of the breast tissue. It is a frequent side effect of antiretroviral therapy. Health professionals at the Komfo Teaching Hospital say some boys have already reported to the hospital with the condition. Kofi, one of them, feels embarrassed about his swollen breast.
The right side started developing when I was in Form 1. But when getting to Form 3, the left side also started. But that one, the way it came, it was rapidly more than the left side. I used to bath in like a bathhouse which was closed, not the general one. I used to bath there, and that place there was no light there. And I used to wake up early, before even rising bell, so that I can take my bath and hurry up and dress up before I go to class.
A pediatric specialist and head of the Adolescent HIV clinic at the Komfo Teaching Hospital, Dr. Anthony Enimil, indicates that gynecomastia is the side effect of the antiretroviral drugs but can be corrected through surgery.
The tissue would have to be removed and surgically sutured such that it doesn't show, because we can't take them off the drugs. And if they're on the drugs and they are developing it and it's irreversible, the only way forward is surgery. But till then, I think they have a lot of psychosocial challenges. I mean, a lot of these young boys have gotten to senior high school and they are in boarding schools. So the biggest challenge for them is they can't expose their chest. You know, men in boarding house, the slightest agitation, everybody wants to remove the chest, the shirt and the singlet. But they cannot do that because then it will call for a lot of stigmatization.
And the Association of Junior Veterinary Surgeons has given government a 1-month ultimatum to begin the process of engaging them. Currently, about 52 veterinary doctors are unemployed due to government's inability to absorb them into the system since 2016. Joining me this afternoon in the studio, I do have the president of the Junior Veterinary Surgeons Association in the person of Dr. Ejiofor. Good afternoon, Doc.
Good afternoon.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you, too.
Now, your last engagement with government was in September.
Yes,
you met with the Minister of Agric.
We spoke with the Minister of Agric, yeah.
And what was the discussion like?
The outcome of that discussion was that he made it clear to the whole Ghanaian community that in January this year we're going to be employed, because apparently we have about 3 batches of veterinary surgeons who have graduated from KNUST and Legon who have not been employed. And so in January, as it came, we called on our Director of Veterinary Services and we told that the Minister said IMF constraint has resisted the process, so they are now going for clearance to do that.
Now, you're pushing for employment, but government has come clean to tell you that indeed we would possibly like to employ you, but there are challenges that have to be dealt with. Don't you think that it is fair to wait for the challenges to be dealt with and then you're employed?
That statement has been said on and on, because I finished my housemanship, my group, in 2016, and we told the same story, that we were going to be employed. Now, 2 other batches have come behind us. The first batch, that second batch is doing its housemanship training. They have not been given their offer letters of employment to begin the housemanship, but still, they have been posted to do it. A third batch is doing the same, no offer of employment. The second batch has completed the housemanship, no salaries. The third batch is the same scenario. So it means that the government keeps on promising, but it's not forthcoming.
So for some might argue that if it's just about jobs, then you can go back to where you did your housemanship and work there, and then wait for the money to come.
That can't be possible because government has policies that if you're employed and you start this year, you have about 3 months before they can pay you. They can pay you more than 3 months, arrears. So if I start work for about 2 years and government employs me today, it means that I'm going to be paid only 3 months arrears. The rest of the 2 years, what happens?
So you've given government an ultimatum?
Yes, please.
Meaning that after the September encounter or meeting with government, you haven't had any interaction with government at all?
It wasn't even a meeting per se. It was a General Assembly of Veterinary Association meeting, and he made it clear. It came to the news that he's going to employ 40 veterinary surgeons and 600 veterinary technicians. And it seems the situation is the same because the promises that came earlier on is the same promise, and it failed.
So back to that same question, did you do a follow-up?
We have.
What happened?
We've spoken to the veterinary
council. When was
council
that?
Since October last year. November, December, we have been going to the ministry and that VSD, Veterinary Service Directorate. That is why after that we petitioned the president 2 weeks ago.
So what happens if you're not listened to?
If you're not listened to and maintain the mindset, we'll meet and meet the whole group and we discuss the way forward. But the whole problem is the government and the society does not know the implication of veterinary service in the society. Because if they know, they wouldn't be compromising the service. Because if you have a service that is there to take care of about 60% of all human diseases, people say we take care of animals, but it shouldn't be so. Because in the whole wide world, according to the WHO, 60% of all human diseases are zoonotic, meaning they are coming from animals. So you have animals we are interacting with, we are eating meat. In that case, you can, get that disease. So if government knows the implication of this, they would do something about it. So our appeal to government is to try as much as possible to engage us.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I have been speaking with Dr. Kwesi Adjei-Safo. He is the president of the Junior Veterinary Doctors Association. And we'll bring you some more on this very story as well in the subsequent bulletins. This is still Midday Live. Two other stories, and the Youth Employment Agency has asked service providers under the sanitation module of the program to reapply. The agency said these providers' contracts have expired and need to be renewed.
The new direction is in line with government commitment to make Accra the cleanest city in Africa. The agency described as unacceptable the amount of money paid to beneficiaries.
The service provider has still, to date, been unable to furnish the agency with the payment records of beneficiaries on their payroll. The review exercise established that each beneficiary is paid 100 cedis, whilst 400 goes to the service provider as management fees. This, again, a practice we consider an affront to beneficiaries on the program.
The agency revealed that most of the beneficiaries working under sanitation module were recruited without recourse to the Youth Employment Agency. According to the agency, Cabinet has directed the Youth Employment Agency to further arrange with sanitation service providers to enter into strategic partnership to improve in sanitary conditions. In a bid to tackle unemployment, the Youth Employment Agency said it has so far created a total of 19,900 jobs for the youth in collaboration with 4 other agencies.
The agency entered into strategic partnership agreements with some public institutions to find innovative ways of creating jobs. These partnerships are tailored to create an estimated number of 50,000 jobs for the youth of this country.
Now let's head to the courts, and the Accra Central District Court has confirmed that the pathologist who performed the postmortem on the late New Patriotic Party Member of Parliament for Ibuakwa North, J.B. Dankwa Edu, has finally submitted the autopsy report to the court. Dr. Lawrence Edusei, however, did not appear in court, defying summons handed him on February 9. My colleague Selom Amenya has been following the story, and he joins me via phone. Hello, Selom. Can you hear me, Selom?
Yes, I can hear you.
Now, tell us a lot more about what happened today.
Well, the court did not disclose when the report was submitted, but it acknowledged receipt of the sealed report and also ordered that the report be handed over to the Criminal Investigations Department, that's the CID, so that the necessary work that needs to be done on it is done. But however, the absence of Dr. Edusei actually infuriated Deputy General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, Nana Obri-Bwai, who is watching brief for the party, and he said he is appalled by the conduct of Dr. Edusei, and he actually prayed the court to cite the pathologist for contempt. But the court actually adjourned the case to March 15 to decide whether or not to cite the pathologist for contempt.
Oh, well, thank you so much for that update, Selom Amenya. You're still watching Midday Live, and now it's time for you to air your concerns in your various communities on the MTN video report.
This is Sumenya Methodist DHS. The structure is collapsing. I mean, and the headmasters here, there are students here who study in this, but they don't want to report because I don't know for them. Actually, I am not a student here. I am just a resident in this town, and this structure here is appalling. I would like the Ministry of Education in Ghana here to come and take a look at this.
There's more shortly. Do stay. Let's do business now, and the enforcement of the Excise Stamp Act 2013 will begin earnestly at various points of sale on March 1, that's on Thursday, and products including cigarettes and tobacco products, alcoholic beverages, and water bottle canned and packaged in any form, non-alcoholic carbonated beverages, whether bottled, canned or packaged, also will have that, according to the Deputy Finance Minister Kweku Kwarteng in a press release. Several companies acquired the stamps and have affixed them to their products on the market ahead of the enforcement start date. Eligible businesses have also been advised to comply with the March 1 deadline or risk sanctions. To other business stories, and the annual percentage rates of interest charged on loans and credit advances and the average interest paid on deposits by banks for January stands at 25.6%. This represents a 0.1% drop from December 2017 figures of 25.7%.
The APR is the true interest rate commercial banks charge the public on loans and advances. It reflects the true cost of borrowing and includes charges and commissions levied by banks. The average interest rate at which commercial banks lend to their customers stands at 25.6% for January 2018. The Bank of Ghana APR and AI report says Premium Banks tops with its base rate at 34.3%, followed by Unibank with 33.7%. The Royal Bank occupies the third position with a base rate of 32.9%. Sovereign Bank follows with 32.2% and Heritage Bank 29.5%. A banking consultant, Dr. Richmond Etuahene, says the high interest rates charged by banks is partly due to the high operational costs they face and therefore the need for them to operate efficiently in order to bring down the rates.
The banks should look at their portfolio. The non-performing is still very high. December was 22.7%. And all these things are affecting the price. If the bank do not clean their balance, their portfolio very well, it's not going to be easy to drop the price on it. Because the risk premium for those who don't pay are normally surcharged on those who pay. So the banks should take steps, real steps, to look at their non-performing portfolio.
He said banks must face reality and bring down their rates, as the higher the interest rates, the more the defaulting rate increases.
Because for every 100 cedis, if you're charging me 34, it means that if I'm able to get the gross profit of 100 cedis, I pay you alone 34%. I'm left with what? 50, is it 56 or 60? Then I have to pay staff, pay electricity, pay this. So it is very important that we should make sure that credit is efficient and it has a bearing on the deposit rate. If you look at the deposit rate and the cost, the disparity is huge. So banks declare profit. Today, someone has declared 172 million. If you go into it alone, you can see that they are overcharging those who are taking loans.
Well, from that story, leaders of 5 West African countries are meeting in Accra to work out the modalities for achieving a single currency monetary union, with the introduction of ECO as a stable legal tender to be used throughout the West African monetary zone. Now, the idea of a single currency for the West African sub-region was first mooted in the year 2000. The Business Desk report analyzes the criteria to be met by member states before they can satisfy requirements for single currency interrogation.
The 15-member body, the Economic Community of West African States Single Currency Program, is expected to become reality in 2020. This plan to share a single currency was initiated in the year 2000 following an ECOWAS regional meeting in Accra, which resulted in a resolution stipulating the Accra Declaration and the Bamako Accord of the same year. The resolution sought to create a single currency for West Africa, the ECO. The West African Monetary Zone member countries include the Gambia, Ghana, Guinea, Nigeria and Sierra Leone. The ECOWAS plan to implement a single currency for its 15-member West African states shifted from an initial launch date of January 1, 2015 to 2020 due to what the group called non-fulfillment of financial responsibilities by member countries. The secondary criteria to be achieved by each member country is a stable real exchange rate and a positive real interest rate. Presently, majority of West African countries use the CFA franc as their common currency. Countries like Liberia and Cape Verde have already expressed their reservations about plans for a new common currency. Other relatively smaller ECOWAS member states also do not foresee any significant advantage for themselves with the introduction of the ECO. Member nations need to be aware that if they do not sufficiently grow their economies by boosting manufacturing and the services sector, true regional cooperation and economic integration, including a single currency, are unlikely to become reality. This does not mean just producing and exporting raw materials, but adding value and improving quality and packaging to meet international standards so they can compete globally.
Some more business stories. And the General Secretary of the Mine Workers Union, Prince William Ankra, has called on government to make Anglo Gold Obuasi agreement public. Nong Falong has this report.
To announce the agreement with government that marks a resumption of duties, General Manager of Anglo Gold Ashanti Obuasi Mine, Eric Esobontin, announced that the agreement covers development, tax concession and security. The General Secretary of the Mine Workers Union, Prince William Ankra, insists that the agreement must be made public to foster transparency and to include amendments from the Mine Workers Union as a key stakeholder. He said that the Mine Workers Union has many concerns.
But we want to know what's in the so-called stability agreement on the basis of the Gulf Coast situation, where is in agreement conspicuously that they will create permanent jobs, and yet they seek to create insecure and non-standard jobs. We want to get a copy as soon as possible, look at the content, make our reservations known.
Prince William Ankra lamented Ghana has already lost too much time in making sure that transnational companies contribute significantly to community development.
These companies keep negotiating payment or royalties downwards and line it up to gold price and all those series. My concern at what point in time are we going to learn from that?
He, however, praised Anglo Gold Ashanti for settling all retrenched members of staff in a satisfactory manner.
And that's all for business. Next, we have sports. Do stay. And in entertainment this afternoon, mother of popular dancehall artist Shatta Wale is worried about death prophecies about her son. Now, in a Facebook live video, Elsie Avemaga threatened to deal with prophets who spell doom for her son. Her comments come in the wake of prophecies that her son will die before July if he does not repent.
I'm 100% Jimmy. Ni kemi ji money for Shatta Wale dienche ne batchpon no. Eto mi a 30 months ni ka form bile. Mi ni kura ni musician se fe koda. E wa mi ni Shatta Wale fi oye ma na mi kura nye nu ko koda. He has been blessed.
What at all has my son done to deserve this hate? Has he ever stolen anything from anybody? The boy is just blessed with music. That's all. Let no one think they can destroy my son.
The boy has been blessed with music. Many banya na Ghana. Nehe kone bata. Eba komo konoko. Eba moko studio ne bafio lala. Beke bomode. Nye hale hallelujah ke bomode. Agbene mine jigbegbe.
Fuming over the death prophecies about her son, she warned the prophets to stay off Shatta Wale or have themselves to blame.
Mine jigbegbe. Me ya Volta yembile hewo. Me angulanyo Jimmy. I am going to the Volta region to display my culture over there. I want to tell you people that if I'm in the Volta, my son will be there too, and you'll see what will happen. Because if there is God that has given me this son, and you people are going against him like that,
in November last year, the hitmaker presented a brand new car to his mom, Elsie Evelyn Avemaga, in celebrating her for giving him life.
My
mother say, it catch sometime. You see, deaf and dumb person, he talk.
Well, that's all for entertainment. But before we wrap up, there's another story. And Ace Nollywood actress Eucharia has revealed that her son was killed by his doctor. In August last year, the celebrated actress and evangelist lost her only son, Raymond, who she had with her ex-husband in 2002. Eucharia, in an interview with Saturday Beats, said Raymond was not supposed to die, adding that he was mistakenly killed by his doctor. The actress, who failed to disclose how the doctor killed her son, however, stated reasons for celebrating his 16th birthday. Eucharia said, "I have not removed my mourning clothes, neither have I opened my hair since the death of my son. I have only been wearing white since his demise, and the reason I have maintained this is because my son was a good boy to me, but was mistakenly killed by the doctor." Next, we have international news.
U.S. President Donald Trump has said arming teachers could prevent school shootings like that which left 17 people dead last week in Florida. A staff member with a gun could end an attack very quickly, he said. Mr. Trump floated the proposal as emotional survivors of the February 14 massacre implored him to make sure something similar does not occur again. The Republican president also backed calls for improved background checks on gun buyers. Other survivors, meanwhile, lobbied Florida lawmakers on gun control. The U.S. president also endorsed a proposal long championed by the National Rifle Association, a powerful gun lobby group. He pledged to look very strongly at calls for educators to be armed with guns. A dozen U.S. states already allow concealed handguns to be carried on college premises, according to the website. The state of Florida does not. Mr. Trump denied during the 2016 election campaign that he was in favor of guns in classrooms. Some of the schoolgirls missing after a militant attack on a boarding school in northern Nigeria have been rescued by the military. About 100 children were believed to be missing after pupils and teachers fled into bush outside the town during the attack. The attack comes 4 years after Boko Haram kidnapped more than 270 girls from a school in the town of Chibok. In a statement, the Yobe state government said an unspecified number of girls had been rescued from the terrorists who abducted them. They were now with the army. Reuters news agency quoted parents and a government official saying that 76 girls had been rescued and at least 13 were still missing. 2 girls had been found dead without specification on how they had died. Yobe state officials had previously said there was no information to suggest any of the girls had been kidnapped.
On that note, we end Midday Live. I am Wendy Lai. Enjoy the rest of our programs and do have a lovely afternoon. Thanks for watching.